Good morning and welcome to my garden. I am quite excited today. Today I get to clean up another contour. I have put off cleaning up my contours because it was so hot and the plants really needed each other for shade and to prevent them from drying out too much. So this row here hasn't been pruned, hasn't been chopped and dropped for a very long time, and I'm keen to do so. I did chop down some arrowroot recently. I was showing a friend how arrowroot and lemongrass look when they're chopped down compared to when they're completely overgrown. But I'm keen to get this all cleaned up. I've cleaned up the other side. It's ready to take my potatoes for this coming season. My pigeon pea, I want to chop it all down to knee, the arrowroot down to knee high, more pigeon pea. As you can see along this chop and drop row, most of the things I've planted, they're not really great chop and drop plants. The lectospermum, the tea tree, it's doing okay. The tiburtina is going to be good one day, but in the meantime, it's not done much. The comfrey will be useful. That's some taro that we're going to eat eventually. Some sage, gordonia. The azalea, it's just not suitable as a chop and drop. It doesn't grow fast enough. Photonia, now that could be very useful. They make good hedges. So I'm looking forward to having that one taller so I can chop that one. Phibalium, it's just not a good chop and drop tree. Rhodomachera, it's growing so slow. They're just not growing fast enough to be regularly chopped and dropped. This is Phibalium. It's got some growth on it, but it just hasn't grown fast enough. And this camellia also. Part of that might be that they've not been watered regularly. I don't water my Syntropics row. I water my vegetable row, and the vegetables and the fruit trees are right there. They can share water. I rely on the mycorrhizal network to share around nutrients and moisture, so I don't water my chop and drop row. The weather has changed a little bit, and we're not getting temperatures in the high 30s anymore. In fact, this week we're all temperatures in the high 20s. So I don't have to worry about leaving the plants there for protection for each other, and I can start pruning them down and doing my chop and drop thing, which I'm very excited about. I love a garden that looks all clean and freshly chopped and dropped. I like the wild too, but if it sits wild for too long, I really feel the need to clean it up and to make it beautiful again. So that's what I'm doing today. This is the vegetable side of contour 2 on the north. You can see I prepared it with horse manure, mushroom compost, worm castings and straw. And there's also biochar in there. So it's well prepared, and it's going to be my potato bed this year. In Syntropics, they often talk about a full reset, and that is when everything is pruned and then everything can grow again together. And your target trees are going to benefit from the prunings that everything else receives. I've decided to do the pruning of my fruit trees at the same time as I do my big chop and drop of the Syntropics row. In this case, that will involve pruning the avocados so that they're not leaning strongly over the vegetable patch, and it'll involve pruning off some of the lower branches of the papaya. So I'd like to encourage the avocados and the citrus to grow in a row this way. So I have the fruit trees almost flat on, so they're going to get maximum northern sun and they're not going to shade the vegetables. Okay, you can see I've pruned this avocado plant. It's a lot narrower now and it's growing more straight up and down the aisle. The main cutting off I did was of these 2 branches here that were growing straight out this way over the vegetables. Now that would definitely have shaded the vegetables, but now I've got it pruned so that it's a lot more narrow and it's staying in the center aisle. So that should help it to have a nicer shape that will suit this garden. I am done, and I think it looks fabulous, and I think the rain's going to try and chase me inside. But I've completed the chop and drop, I've completed the tidy up and the pruning of the fruit trees, and doesn't it look fabulous? I corrected the angle of the fruit trees that were growing towards the vegetable garden, so they're now growing more down the centre aisle of the bed. I couldn't prune the yukon very much because it's end of summer, and if you prune it now, it will inhibit the growth of the tubers. I did, however, prune the branches that were lying down on the ground and those that were falling over on the chop and drop row and getting in the road. Some of these plants were so small I couldn't prune them. This is a flowering basil, and I didn't prune that because the bees need something at the moment. I chopped all the lower branches off the papaya so that they're not causing extra shade over the garden as we come into winter, and the plants will be wanting all the sun they get. Currently it's still the end of summer, and the canopy above will help shade immediately below. I added to the chop and drop row. You may also notice that I filled in the swale here. We've decided we don't need the swale. If any water runs down the hill, it'll be obstructed and caught by the chop and drop row, and it'll be caught again by the vegetable bed on the other side. The swale just serves to make mowing and keeping the paths clean a little bit more complicated, and I often end up with tall grass along the edge of the swale because the mower can't get to it. At least now anything that grows in the chop and drop row will be fine, and anything that's on the path, we can just mow that without fear of the mower falling into the swale. It looks so much cleaner and neat and looked after and cared for. I've planted my first 2 rows of potatoes. I planted some Desiree potatoes that I had growing in the cupboard, so it was time to plant them. I still have a fruit fly bait trap for the male fruit flies. These carrots here are still growing. I'm keeping them for seed. They're the purple carrots and I really enjoyed them, so I'd like some seed from them. Here's another carrot. I'm letting that grow so I can harvest the seeds from that. Parsley plant. Some of the thyme and the oregano that I planted along the front of this bed has survived. Most of it didn't cope with the long spell without water before I put the watering system in. You can see the avocados are growing very flat down the centre of the bed. They're not hanging over the vegetable bed, and I'm going to continue to encourage them to grow in the centre so that the vegetables are not overly shaded. I've pruned off the lower branches of the papaya. Papayas can branch and I could end up with fruit down lower, but I don't want them to create more shade than necessary over these beds. These are supposed to be productive beds, and if they're going to shade things, then that will reduce the production. I had pineapple, avocado pineapple, and then a papaya. And then I had ginger, citrus, turmeric, and a papaya. So there is a ginger plant here that had a dead stalk on it. There is quite a bit of root just there, and I'm hoping it'll come back. That turmeric is doing well there. The ginger here is doing all right. Some of these citrus trees just haven't grown very well at all. So that one's still very small. I pruned off all the multiple branches down the bottom to encourage it to have a central stem. I think I might actually prune back some of this turmeric. Because I have 1, 2, 3 bunches of it, I will have enough turmeric for our family, for our small family. So I'm going to actually prune that off too, so that I can effect the complete reset with the Syntropic chop and drop. Also so those citrus can get more light and can grow a bit more. Okay, final walk round. It's all looking very pruned. It's looking very clean. It's looking very loved. I'm yet to put some more pineapples in the gaps where the pineapples have died. So that'll be one more there. I think that one's dead. And a couple more down the end. And another papaya needs to be planted in that gap there. But this is contour 2 on the north, all ready for winter planting.